Hello YouTube and welcome to another couch vlog. Of course, as always, coming at you from beautiful Sterling, Virginia. I want to make this video because I was thinking about the 4th of July and what the 4th of July means to me. You know, the whole idea of freedom and defiance of authority. And that got me thinking about why I like to ride motorcycles. And thinking about why I like to ride motorcycles got me thinking about why other people like to ride motorcycles. And I came up with 5 main reasons for why people ride motorcycles. And I wanted to make this video and post it to just, again, have a little fun and get you thinking, you know, kill some time like YouTube's all about, and maybe record my thoughts for, you know, the future. So before we do that, let's have a little drink with out of the boot. Oh yes. Oh yeah. Good stuff. A little bit of beer out of the boot. So the 5 main reasons why people ride motorcycles. Number 1, transportation. Number 2, freedom. Number 3, attention. Number 4, adrenaline. And number 5, technicality. So, if you have other reasons why people ride motorcycles, feel free to tell me. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm not thinking about this correctly. And do understand that no one really rides a motorcycle for one and only reason. Like, you know, like I only ride a motorcycle because it makes me feel free. That's the only reason I hop on my motorcycle. You probably ride for the freedom aspect, and maybe you ride for the adrenaline aspect as well, and maybe a little bit of technicality thrown in there, you know, just as an example. So let's start and give a little explanation of what these 5 things are, and go from there, right? So number 1, of course, is transportation. And this is the number 1 reason why people ride motorcycles around the world. Within the United States, which isn't really a motorcycle-centric culture, most people do not ride motorcycles for transportation. Some do, and I commend those people, but let's be honest, most people don't. But around the world, especially in, you know, non-Western cultures, motorcycles are the primary means of transportation. And I do group scooters into motorcycles. If it's got 2 wheels and it'll tip over without the kickstand or the center stand, it's a motorcycle. Heck, even the Yamaha Niken's a motorcycle if you ask me, but hey, let's not get into that. So transportation, what kind of people ride motorcycles for transportation? They're people that are, you know, around the world, generally, you know, they're lower income people, and they select motorcycles for transportation because that is the best and most economical way for them to get around their areas. If you've ever been to a Southeast Asian country, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Traffic is crazy. Driving a car is expensive. Something like a car that costs $20,000 in America is going to cost you like $35,000 in that same country. It's crazy. Cars are super expensive because of the import taxes and things like that. They're impractical. Yeah, sure, AC is really nice, but they're impractical in general. And motorcycles just will get you where you want to go a lot faster. So what kind of motorcycles do these people ride? Well, let's be honest, they ride a lot of scooters. And why do they ride scooters? Because scooters are cheap. Scooters are small, scooters are easy to maintain, and they're narrow. They're one-cylinder bikes. They get you around stuff and through stuff. And finally, scooters can hold crap. You know, with your top case and your under-seat storage, you can hold a little bit of crap when you go places. So that would be your number 1 thing. When they ride, you know, real motorcycles, you know, they tend to ride 125s mostly, or, you know, 155s or like 250s, you know, things like that. Small single-cylinder bikes. Again, for the reasons I listed for scooters. And I commend these people who ride motorcycles for transportation, sure, but we shouldn't have any qualms about it, or, you know, misconceptions that, you know, these people in general, most of them who ride motorcycles for transportation, especially outside the United States, are not riding enthusiasts. Now, you have guys like Royal Jordanian who do ride motorcycles for transportation. I also have some friends who ride motorcycles for transportation, and they are definitely riding enthusiasts, but I'm talking about generally. Generally, when you buy a motorcycle to get you places, and that's the reason you bought your motorcycle, you're kind of like a car driver. You don't really care. If someone asks you about the compression ratio of your engine, you're not going to be able to answer that. If somebody asks you about how many sprockets are on your front or rear, you're not going to be able to answer that question. If somebody asks you, heck, how much horsepower does your bike have? You probably don't even know what horsepower means and the difference between horsepower and torque. So that's all well and good. And I commend these riders. Do you have to be a riding enthusiast to be a good rider? No. Does it help? Sure. But you certainly don't have to be. So let's move on to number 2. Number 2, like I said, was freedom. That's the reason people in the United States like to ride motorcycles in general, right? This is your Harleys, your big touring bikes, your choppers, your bobbers, all these different kinds of bikes that you see, your sports bikes. And a lot of the reasons people ride these motorcycles is to feel that freedom. They want to feel the wind on their face. They want to feel the wind on their arms and their legs. They want to be able to really accelerate fast. Not because it makes them feel an adrenaline rush, but because it makes them feel big, And freedom's a great reason to ride a motorcycle. I mean, is it the safest reason to ride a motorcycle? No. But it's a great thing, and it really pushes the United States motorcycle industry forward. And a lot of the reasons we see American motorcycles perform the way they perform, i.e. not that well, is because of this freedom aspect. The people buying these motorcycles, they don't care about adrenaline rushes, they don't care about cornering quickly, they don't care about stuff like that. What they care about is getting out there on the bike and feeling awesome, just feeling cool, feeling good, and feeling like, yes, America, fuck yeah. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It is one of the things that makes our country great is that you can do things like that. So guys, please don't discount people who ride for freedom. Now, I will say again, this is the majority of riders, and the majority of riders are not enthusiasts, okay? So please understand that, your typical Harley buyer doesn't really know much about motorcycles or Harleys or anything really motorcycle related. They kind of understand what they have, and they can get from point A to point B and feel really good doing it. But when you ask them to push their limits, when you ask them to do parking lot drills, when you ask them to do all kinds of, outside of the box motorcycle techniques, they're going to fall apart, and they're going to fall apart fast. And so I will talk a little smack. These freedom guys, if they want to experience the freedom for longer, they want to stay as safe as possible, they need to learn how to ride better. They need to learn how to use that front brake. They need to learn how to keep their head and their eyes up. They need to learn throttle control. They need to learn all these things, which is unfortunate because that goes against freedom, right? You're sitting there in a classroom, you're sitting there reading books, you're sitting there in a parking lot scorching your ass off practicing, and there ain't nothing free about that. So, it's a tough one for me to explain the freedom because I do respect it, but it doesn't jive with who I am. It doesn't jive with Sterling Moto much. So let's move on to number 3. And I think number 2 and number 3 has a lot of crossover. A lot of people who ride for freedom also ride for attention. So with the attention thing is they obviously ride motorcycles to be seen. They ride motorcycles to fit in, to make new friends, to reconnect with old friends. They ride motorcycles socially. They ride it as a social tool. And again, I respect the hell out of this. And I personally fall very hard into number 3. I might not have the loudest bike or the flashiest bike or the most eye-catching bike, but I use motorcycling as a tool to be social. So I am certainly riding for attention. All right? And is riding for attention necessarily a bad thing? No. But this is where you really want to start to become more of an enthusiast. Because when you start getting that attention and you start talking to people about motorcycles and you start talking to people about riding, I would hope that you understand that the things you say are going to influence those around you. So you sure as hell better know what you are talking about. Okay? Please know what you're talking about when it comes to riding, when you're riding for attention. You know, you should know about trail braking maybe. You should know about proper throttle control. You should know the difference between torque and horsepower, and you know, various things like suspension preload and how it relates to, you know, the performance of your bike and things just like that, and the difference between, say, forward, mid, and rear controls. Just your basic motorcycling stuff, so that when that attention does come your way, the attention you're so desperately craving, myself included, you're able to communicate using the language of motorcycling. You're able, and not just the language of motorcycling, you're able to communicate using your riding itself. You're able to get out there and ride with other people and ride in formation correctly, ride single file correctly, be able to go fast enough, know when you're going too fast, know how to go and dice it up with traffic, know when maybe you shouldn't, and just things like that. So communicate with the language of motorcycling and communicate with your riding in general if you want to ride for attention. And let's be honest, a lot of people do ride for attention, and it's a great thing. Motorcycling is a great social activity, and I have no problem at all when people do this. Any of the things, really. Whether you ride, again, for transportation or freedom or attention, you're doing a lot of good for the community. You're spending money on bikes, you're spending money on parts, you're spending money for mechanics. You are out there on your bike, people are looking at you, they're seeing you, they're understanding that yes, motorcycling is a real thing. Yes, motorcycles are toys for most of us, especially here in America, but at the same time, what's wrong with playing with toys? What's wrong with feeling happy? Okay? So the final thing I want to say about attention is, what kind of bikes do attention-driven motorcycle people buy? And the answer is all types of bikes. You know, you've got your cruisers, you've got your sports bikes, your dual sports, you got all these bikes, and they can all turn heads. One of the biggest things that people who ride for attention do is modifications to their bike. And they want to talk about those modifications. Whether those mods be, you know, loud exhausts, tunes, just aftermarket parts of various kinds, aftermarket paint jobs, hell, different, you know, stickier or more aggressive tires, just all kinds of stuff. So that's kind of the common denominator for people who ride for attention, is that they're the people who are more likely to be enthusiasts because they're going to be modding their bikes. And to mod your bike, even if you're having someone else do it, you tend to have to know a couple things about what you want out of your motorcycle, what you want other people to see on your motorcycle, and that means maybe having a little bit of an understanding. So I implore you, if you're riding for attention, if you're riding to get noticed, just know what the hell you're talking about. So number 4, adrenaline. Now this is the toughest one. And I don't want to call anyone out, I'm not. I don't really have anyone in mind specifically when I make this video. So please, if you're someone who likes to ride for adrenaline and you think I'm talking about you, I'm not talking about you. So, these are the people who ride motorcycles like as a drug. They're trying to get that rush. They're the people who are like, they're trying to get that, like I said, they're trying to get that adrenaline in their brain. You know, and these are probably the people, at least on the streets, I have the biggest problem with. Because like I said before, no motorcyclist exists in an island. I didn't say that in this video, but I've said it in others. And when you are riding in such a way that generates adrenaline, that means you're getting close to death. And when you're getting close to death, you tend to make motorcyclists look bad because you're going really fast, you're weaving in and out of traffic, you're crashing, you're popping wheelies, doing stoppies. You're just doing stuff on the bike that gives motorcyclists a bad name in the general community, and I really don't like agreeing with that. So the one thing I can say is, if you're riding for adrenaline, and adrenaline is what you want out of motorcycling, suck it up and get off the roads, okay? Say you like stunting. Say what really gets you off on bikes is stunting, like doing crazy wheelies, stoppies, burnouts, drifts, standing up and riding, doing all that, not standing up and riding, but like, riding like this while you're doing a wheelie, like just all kinds of stuff that would be involved in stunting. You know what you want to do? You want to get your ass into a parking lot. You want to get a real stunt bike. You want to get real good gear, and you want to get your ass in a parking lot and practice. Push your limits hard. Crash, crash, crash. And then when you finally get it right, man, you're going to get that rush when you start getting it right. But do understand, too, that the better you get, the further you're going to have to push to get that adrenaline. It's the same with speed. If what gets you off is acceleration, well then take your butt to the drag strip. Take the bike you have. It doesn't matter how slow it is. Take the bike you have and fully exploit it there on the drag strip. And when you've done that, sell your bike, get a faster bike, exploit it. Sell that bike, get a faster bike, exploit it. And pretty soon, well, maybe not pretty soon, but eventually, if you're good enough, you'll find yourself riding a freaking nitro methane bike, going 250 miles an hour, or whatever the hell they do, and running like 4 or 5 second quarter miles. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't care who you are, that's going to freaking get your adrenaline going like nothing else, but do it on the drag strip. When you're trying to achieve top speeds on the streets, yeah, it's going to get your adrenaline going, especially because of the fear of death from like cars changing lanes into you and stuff, and bad road conditions, but you make us all look bad. You're making us all look bad. Finally, if you're kind of like me and you get adrenaline out of cornering, take it to the track. The tail of the dragon and the streets isn't the place to be pushing your limits and feeling that adrenaline, because again, you're making us look bad. And when you do crash, because you will crash trying to corner hard, again, you're gonna make us all look bad with your wadded up motorcycle, getting in an ambulance, doing all this, and just, you're gonna get tickets. You might lose your license, you might get dropped by your insurance. It's just not worth it. Chasing that adrenaline on the street is just not worth it. Spend the money. Look, if you got a really fast, powerful bike and you can't afford to go to the track, what do? You sell the bike and get a cheap bike and take that cheap bike to the track. You're gonna have so much more fun with a slower bike on the track than you would with a fast bike on the street. It's just the way it goes. So I don't want to beat a dead horse on this one, guys. I'm not trying to talk shit about people who ride for adrenaline, because there's nothing wrong with it. Riding for adrenaline is a great way to ride. And the one facet of riding for adrenaline I left out is the whole dirt thing. The people who ride on dirt. And that is a great way to get a good adrenaline fix, man. Riding on dirt is a great way to get a good adrenaline fix. And it's legal. As long as you have permission to ride where you want to ride, you're totally fine. And you can go off jumps, you can do crazy wheelies, you can ride super fast in between trees, you can do all kinds of crazy stuff, and it's totally legal. And you're gonna get your adrenaline rushing going, because you're this close to death when you're out there on the dirt. It really is true. So the final reason people ride, and this is probably the primary reason I ride, and is probably the primary reason a lot of professionals ride, and that is technicality. So what is technicality? That's a little bit of a weird thing. That's riding to push your limits. That's riding to get better at riding. So when you get out there on the bike, your primary objective is to get better. So let's say like you're a professional racer. Okay, you're racing for money, yes. That's why you're getting on the bike. But once you're on the bike, your primary motivation is to push that bike all the way to its limits. Are you there to get an adrenaline rush? Is that what you're after? No, because when you start getting an adrenaline rush, things are not going good for you. You're not focused, you're not in the zone, you're not focused. So you want to keep the adrenaline to a minimum. You want to ride within your limits as much as possible and ride within your comfort zone, but still go really, really fast and still get better. And the way you get faster is by expanding your limits, not by pushing your limits, but by actually making your limits higher. So that's what I mean by riding technically. And I'm not gonna go into this one too much. This video is already going pretty long, but if you wanna ride technically, I think you're on the right path, whether it be for the street or the track. You know what I mean? Don't push your limits, but expand your limits. By actually making your limits higher. So that's what I mean by riding technically. And I'm not going to go into this one too much. This video is already going pretty long, but if you want to ride technically, I think you're on the right path, whether it be for the street or the track. You know what I mean? Don't push your limits, but expand your limits by staying well below them and riding in a very technical, deliberate, and cerebral manner. That will make you more confident, that will make you more controlled, and that will make you a better rider. And when you become a better rider, you can start riding more quickly while still remaining the same level of safety. So anyways, guys, that's my little presentation video for today. I know I've been making a lot of these, and I appreciate those of you who have been watching them all. I thank you a lot, and please, if you have any real feedback, I would love to hear it. If I'm just talking out of my ass and saying stuff that's not true, well, tell me why. Why am I saying wrong things? Not why, but what am I saying that's wrong? And what is the right answer? Okay? If I'm doing a good job, give me a thumbs up, I guess. I don't care. Don't like, don't subscribe. Jesus Christ. I can't believe I just said that, guys. Don't like, don't subscribe. Give me a thumbs down. I don't care. But what I want you to do is think about 4th of July. If you're an American citizen, or if you're a citizen of any nation, think about your nation's Independence Day. If your nation doesn't have an Independence Day, well, I do feel a little, sorry, because most Western countries and Eastern countries as well have claimed independence from something, right? Whether that be another nation, or maybe it's a tyrannical government. You know, your nation has become the modern sense, the modern nation that it is today, because it has gone through a lot of adversity. So guys, I want you to remember that adversity. Remember that riding, in a sense, gives you that freedom that you can't get anywhere else. Besides maybe, you know, skydiving, scuba diving, other things. Riding is an activity that allows you to feel alive by getting you closer to death. So that's something we always need to keep in mind, and we need to weigh the risks, weigh the consequences, and weigh the technical aspects of it. You know, how much are you willing to put in versus how much do you want to get out? It's a very complicated subject, but that's why I make these videos, because I want you guys, as always, to think about your riding.